Hello and welcome to Thursday. It's Thursday. Thursday's Greek myth. Thursday Greek myth. How spiders came to be. Look at the nice picture. Arachne's fingers moved so quickly across the loom they were a blur. She hummed as she wove, passing the shuttle expertly back and forth, and onlookers jostled the space as they watched the tapestry take shape. In no time at all, it was finished. "What do you think of that?" she said, handing the piece to a shy nymph who had ventured out from the forest to see the famous girl at work. The tapestry showed animals playing amongst the trees. They had a border of intertwined leaves all around it. "It's lovely," breathed the nymph. "You must be better at weaving than anybody else in the world." Arachne nodded proudly. "I'm better than any of the gods too, actually," she boasted. A frail voice spoke up from the crowd. "You can't be better than the goddess Athena. She's famous for her weaving. You're only human after all." "I can weave better than she can," snorted Arachne. The old lady who had spoken stepped forward. "That's rather a bold claim," she said, her voice sharpening. "I'd take it back if I were you. You never know who's listening." "I wouldn't care if Athena herself could hear me," Arachne said scornfully. "I stand by what I say." The old woman threw back the hood of her cape and straightened her back. The wrinkles on her face faded until her skin was smooth and glowing. She grew taller and her hair became glossy. Before the crowd's very eyes, she turned into the goddess Athena. Everyone bowed their heads respectfully, apart from Arachne, who just stared at the goddess, first flushing red and then turning very pale. "Do you dare repeat that to my face?" Athena asked. An angry goddess is a terrifying sight, but Arachne was far too proud to back down. Her voice wavered a little as she spoke. "I can weave better than you can," she said. Athena's eyes narrowed. "Then let's have a competition, and you can prove it to everyone." Arachne nodded, swallowing nervously. She stood up from her loom and she gestured to the stool. You can go first if you like," she said. Athena sat down, pushed back her sleeves and began to weave. As everyone watched, the thread started to form a beautiful, intricate scene. It showed arrogant humans being put in their place by the glorious gods. The figures were so lifelike when she wove Zeus throwing a thunderbolt in anger. People in the crowd ducked, thinking the bolt was about to hit them. Beneath her fingers, the thread somehow glowed brighter than any ordinary thread. When she had finished, the image shimmered as though it was inlaid with gold and silver. It was truly amazing. "There," Athena said triumphantly, and she stood up to let Arachne take her place at the loom. Arachne took a deep breath and began to weave. She worked intently without saying a word. As she wove, people gasped at her skill. She had never produced anything more wonderful or more daring than this. The scene she wove was every bit as intricate as Athena's, but it showed brave heroes challenging foolish gods. Tiny ships sailed valiantly across the seas, while Zeus stirred up a storm, looking for all the world like a giant, truculent toddler. When Arachne had finished, she turned to the crowd. "Well," she said. There was no denying her skill. The tapestry was every bit as good as Athena's, if not better, but nobody was fool enough to say so. Athena's face was as menacing as a thundercloud. "Your arrogance will be your downfall," she shouted. She tore the tapestry from the loom and ripped it into tiny shreds in front of Arachne's face. Then she seized the girl by the throat and lifted her up into the air. "How dare you challenge a goddess and expect to win?" she hissed. "I'll see to it that you never weave again." Arachne's face, turned ashen as she gasped for breath. "Please," she begged hoarsely, "weaving is all I've ever wanted to do. It's all I can do." Athena dropped the girl in a crumpled heap on the floor. "Fine," she snapped. "You may continue weaving, but you certainly won't be able to boast about it anymore." She rapped the girl on top of her head with her knuckles. At once, a terrible transformation began to take place. Arachne's arms and legs shrank back into her body, leaving only her eight long fingers at her side. Her head squashed into her torso, which became squat and round. Her nose disappeared entirely, and her eyes multiplied until she had 8 of them in a row. Her skin turned dark and sprouted hairs, and she shrank until she was no bigger than the palm of a child's hand. Arachne had turned into a spider. She scuttled away into the shadows, and everyone thought they had seen the last of her. The very next morning, a nymph came running from the forest. "Come and see!" she shouted excitedly. The villagers followed her back to the forest, where the nymph showed them a beautiful woven pattern hanging between the branches. The thread was so delicate a mere breath could break it, and the pattern was dotted with dewdrops that glittered in the sun like diamonds. The skill was unmistakable. "Arachne the spider has woven her first web," the nymph announced. From that day forward, evidence of Arachne's weaving had been found all over the world. So many webs had been found in so many far-flung places that people say Arachne must have passed on her skill to lots of other spiders too. So there you go, another Another explanation of how an animal got a particular skill. A bit sort of Just So story like, I guess. But yeah, again, another one of these sort of moral lessons. No matter how good you are, don't say you're better than the gods, because the gods tend to be quite mean. So what could you do with that? What could you do with that? As ever, you could do a nice, just a straightforward retell of the story. You could draw some pictures. I think the transformation into a spider is quite a nice one. You could do something along, you can make your own spider's web out of something. If you've got wool or string or something at home, you could have a crack at that. Again, like I was saying yesterday, if you wanted to do sort of newspaper headlines, I think, Arachne turned into a spider, shocker. You could do a nice sort of newspaper rendition of it. As ever, you could tell it from a different point of view. You could tell it from the point of view of somebody in the crowd. What did she do next? Now that she's a spider, she can go anywhere that spiders can. She could often have sort of spidery adventures of some kind. So there's a few things you could do with that one. We're almost on to some of the really big ones, some of the really big name myths coming up in the next week or two. Got the sort of Heracles, which we'll have to do over a number of days. Got Jason the Argonauts. Got Icarus, again, the ultimate cautionary tale. So lots of really big ones coming up. Lots to look forward to. We're a little way off from my favourite yet, the Odyssey, but we will get there. We'll get there. So hopefully, I've had some very, very lovely messages, very positive messages about people enjoying this. So even if you're not doing any of the challenge work, I hope you are enjoying the stories. I do think the Greek myths are very important. Yes, hope everyone is keeping well, staying safe. Take care. We will see you when we see you.